Y'all, SCOTUS just delivered a backhand to the Democratic narrative that Donald Trump was a Gestapo agent and he was overstepping his bounds in immigration issues and Alien Enemies Act. They also just backhanded all the activist judges. So in one fell swoop this morning, the SCOTUS just genuinely told you that the Democrats have been lying to you the whole time. All their lawsuits have been thrown out. The activist judges have been overruled all around Donald Trump's authority to get rid of illegal gangbangers from Venezuela. Y'all, the dominoes are falling, and they're not going to take this well. And if you are enjoying this type of content and you want to save the country with us, get in here, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on. We have got some stuff to talk about whilst we cut through the propaganda. Okay, you can, of course, follow me on X at Braden LOA, but let's dive right into this. I'm not going to bury the lead on you. This is important. Because do you guys remember the video I did a couple days ago where the Democrat senators were grilling Marco Rubio and saying how mean he was to get rid of gangbangers and Venezuelan gangbangers and Tren de Aragua and the people who were doing all those things? Remember that? If you didn't, go back and watch the video. But this just came down from SCOTUS this morning. Yeah. Turns out they all lied to you. It was fully within Donald Trump's bounds. It was fully within his authority, and he's going to keep doing it. Watch this.
Now we have a Fox News alert. The Supreme Court just cleared the way for Trump to deport illegals even faster. The High Court ruled that Trump can use the Alien Enemies Act to send Venezuelan gangbangers to a mega prison in El Salvador. This is a huge ruling in Trump's favor and a major win for the country. After, as you know, D.C. Judge James Boasberg ordered a stop to the deportations. So this is pretty significant. These deportations, Caroline, can keep going.
This is a massive legal victory, Jesse, a massive victory for law and order and for our constitutional republic and the sovereignty of the United States of America. We called on the Supreme Court to rein in these activist judges like Judge Boasberg, who was completely out of line in trying to say that the president didn't have the executive authority to deport foreign terrorists off of our soil. We have always maintained the position at the White House that the president was well within his constitutional authority to do so. And this decision proves that President Trump and our administration have always been right from the beginning. He will continue to utilize the Alien Enemies Act to remove foreign terrorists and Tren de Aragua members, vicious gang members from American communities. And because of this ruling, the United States of America is a much safer place. Our team will get to work tomorrow to deport these heinous, violent foreign terrorists from our neighborhoods.
All right. So we're going to zoom out and go macro real quick. You know what? In fact, this deserves a come here. The argument from the Democrat side of this, from the activist side of this, from the left wing, the progressive side of this, is you can't take out Venezuelan gangbangers who came into the country illegally, who are disproportionately affecting the population of the United States with violence. Their position is, you can't do it, you big meanie Donald Trump. It's TDS on an industrial scale. But now, the activist judges that were being utilized, which was a big frustration of this audience. I heard you guys in the comments all the time that the activist judges were blocking all of Trump's executive actions that were within his authority. This is the way the system works. They do the same thing in the gun control fight. They do the same thing in the abortion fight. The same thing in the immigration fight. This is what they do. They weaponize judges that they've placed in because the judges are the ones that basically throw out the injunctions, which I'm going to show you here in a second. But it's all fun and games until it gets to SCOTUS. SCOTUS just ruled that Donald Trump can remove these people under the Alien Enemies Act, and everything that the Democrats and the progressives and the left wings told you was a lie. Overtly a lie. But anyway, let's keep on going because for some reason they really, really, really wanted to keep in those lefty gangbangers. I cannot explain why, but they did. But here you go. I'm going to play this last little clip. They're going to touch on some stuff with DOGE, but I want you to pay attention at the end. Then I'll show you something else where they got absolutely stuffed around their whole ICE resistance. Okay, watch this.
And you had another couple critical wins in the court with regard to DOGE. Tell us about those. That seems to be making progress.
Yes, absolutely. There have been many wins that the mainstream media has failed to cover, particularly over the weekend. The Supreme Court also ruled that the president does, in fact, have the authority over federal funding, that he can dictate what funds can go out the door and what can't, so long as they are part of the executive branch. So we have always, again, maintained that every executive order the president...
Okay, I want to stop here real quick because this is a very important portion to this. If you're not familiar how this works, the president, and she was very specific, as long as it pertains to the executive branch, that is money that was allocated from Congress, who controls the purse strings, directly to the executive branch. So that's what he's directing. He's not directing congressional spending. That would be illegal. What he's directing is the money that Congress apportioned to the executive branch. That would be like law enforcement. That would be like border security. That would be all the things underneath the executive law enforcement. Okay? That's the big distinction. That's why she said it like that. It's important to pick up these little things. Anyway, let's keep on going.
President assigned every executive action that he has taken has been well within his executive authority. And DOGE is doing a tremendous job at cutting back at the waste and the fraud and the abuse that have been ripping off American taxpayers, that have not been aligned with our interests here in our country. So we're going to continue the president's agenda. Again, he's well within his constitutional authority. And it's great to see the Supreme Court reining in these activist judges who are wearing robes, but are acting as judicial activists, not as real judges and real arbiters of the law.
All right. Lawyer.
That's the whole point right there. And we're about to go into an even more fun portion of this. The Supreme Court is starting to rein in the activist judges, because activist judges were a very large problem earlier on. That's all they had left, right? That's why they chose the venues they chose. That's why they chose the districts they chose. That's what they were doing. They do this in the gun world all the time. They pick the most liberal, extreme things and districts, and then they say, oh, look, a judge said we're perfectly fine to infringe upon your constitutional rights. They always do it, and it has to go higher. That's the whole point. That's the tactic. That's the game, okay? But now let me show you something else over activist judges and activist AGs like Minnesota. Trump wins in Minnesota. A federal judge has just refused to block President Trump's surge of DHS agents into the state for immigration operations. So all the lawsuits that they were going to stop Donald Trump and they were going to stop the ICE deployments and they were going to stop the deportations, a judge just said, yeah, no, you can't. No, you can't. Here's AG Pam Bondi. Another huge Justice Department legal win in Minnesota. Just now, a Biden-appointed district judge denied Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison's attempt to keep ICE out of Minnesota. Neither sanctuary policies nor meritless litigation will stop the Trump administration. Good! Because there's going to be a whole lot of meritless litigation and there's going to be a whole lot of sanctuary policy defense. This is the whole point. Keep grinding. This is the way you fight this fight. Honest to God. You're going to have litigation, you're going to have activist judges, and you just got to keep going. That's why I need you guys to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on, because no one that I've seen is showing you stuff like this. This is incredibly important. All right. Here is the federal judge denying Minnesota's request to stop President Trump's ICE surge. I'm going to break it down and zoom in for you right here. This is what he said, and this is important. The court pauses to observe what it is not deciding. This is the coverall portion. At this stage, the court makes no final determination of the merits of any claims asserted by plaintiffs, nor does the court offer any opinion about the wisdom of Operation Metro Surge, and the legality of many of the specific actions taken by federal agents during the operation is not before the court in this case. Instead, the court only decides whether to grant the extraordinary remedy of preliminary injunction. My 2A people will remember that phrasing very, very, very key, or very recent. Halting a federal law enforcement operation based upon the 10th Amendment. In answering this question, the court must view plaintiffs' claims through the lens of the specific legal framework they invoke, and having done so, find the plaintiffs have not met their burden. For the reasons discussed below, the motion is denied. The plaintiffs in this case is Minnesota's Attorney General Keith Ellison. They just got denied by a federal judge to stop the ICE surge into Minnesota. So you've got SCOTUS this morning waking up and just destroying activist judges and destroying the whole idea that Donald Trump was acting outside of authority. He wasn't. And then on the other side of that, you've got federal judges saying that, the ICE order is perfectly legal and we're not going to issue a preliminary injunction. Continue to get wrecked, lefties. Continue to get wrecked. And I'll see you guys on the next one. I'm Braden. Later.